Join us now to talk about TikTok, possible TikTok ban and other tech headlines. Let's bring in Geoff Lewis, Bedrock Capital founder, managing partner. OpenAI has been in the Bedrock portfolio since 2021. And Geoff, let's talk TikTok. You call this a ban, I think, not a divestment. And would it really work if it was divested? Would that solve the problem?
I mean, look, I'd love for there to be a TikTok ban. I think back to August of 2020 when we had President Trump with the executive order to ban TikTok, and I think there was an opportunity to divest, and there was a plan with Oracle, and would have been a lot better if it had happened back then. I support a TikTok ban or divestment. I think we have a very significant, somewhat narrow issue where we basically have a foreign government controlling one of the most powerful algorithms influencing the U.S. here. I worry that the practicalities of the divestment, the 6-month time period in this proposed bill, there's a possibility this bill might be designed to fail. And if the bill actually fails to achieve its objective, I worry about the knock-on effects for freedom of speech and society here. So yes, I'm in favor of banning TikTok. Obviously, I think anyone who's not in favor of TikTok might themselves be a foreign adversary or a foreign agent in favor of getting rid of it. But I worry about how broad things can expand here if things don't work out as the bill plans.
And if someone were to say, well, Geoff, do you think it's a national security risk? You can't imagine that question even still being asked. You're that sure?
Yes.
From what you just said. By definition, it's the CCP. It's a very powerful algorithm, and they control it.
I mean, I don't know how much time you're spending around young kids, Joe. Do you have grandkids? Do you see how much time they spend on TikTok these days? It's insane. These kids are spending so much time a day on TikTok. Algorithms so addictive.
My grandkids have kids, and then a couple of them are pregnant. Actually, it's unbelievable, and they're in their 30s. So no, I don't have grandkids. My son is 22. My daughter's 24.
In any case,
I was a late bloomer. I want
to back up, Geoff. You're saying basically anybody who doesn't think this needs to be divested or sold is themselves potentially a foreign actor acting against us because former President Trump, has changed his opinion of this. You don't think there's anything that leaves room if you're not
I think he sort of
changed
it back. I think he sort of changed it back. I mean, I haven't spoken with him directly, but I think as of yesterday, he's like, we need to do something about it. Not exactly.
That could be Stephen Mnuchin talking to him about it, too, who the former Treasury Secretary who says that he would put together a group to buy it.
Fair enough. Look, I mean, I think the bottom line is it's clear that Chinese social-controlled, CCP-controlled social media company having this much influence, this much access to the data on like 150 plus Americans, that's really dangerous. We've been talking about doing something about this for years. We should have done something 4 years ago. And I just think the contours of this bill with the definition of the foreign adversaries, the power that it gives the president to approve or not approve a sale, I'm just worried about, might this bill be designed to fail? Might it be a Trojan horse for more regulation of more social media companies that aren't controlled by China? And I think what we have here is a narrow issue with TikTok and the CCP. And it would be great to address it as a narrow issue rather than opening a door for a Trojan horse for government to control all the algorithms, because that is the doomsday scenario. I think China controlling a very powerful algorithm, clearly bad. You have to be an idiot to not think that's clearly bad and that we need to be doing something about that. But then the US government broadly having control over all the algorithms, that feels very dangerous and like a path to us becoming China over time. So I'm not a lawmaker, I'm not a legislator, I'm not a politician. I don't know how to exactly draw the lines here, but this is a very nuanced issue.
Oh, I can draw some lines for you as a politician. Young people vote.
Yeah.
And you can see it right now, and they vote Democratic. So they're not. Why do you think Schumer's not moving? Why do you think Schumer thinks he can control what kind of government Israel has? It's all about votes, don't you think, Geoff? I mean, it's a cynical viewpoint, but I worry that nothing's going to happen. Like you say, nothing will happen on TikTok because young people vote, and people on TikTok have started threatening senators. I saw it was a recorded message to someone's phone last night. I forget which senator. It says, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to cut you up into little pieces because this is the only way I know how to make a living is on TikTok.
It's a very sad comment on where things are at societally here. And, we've had this issue with social media. It's just been getting worse and worse every year. I do think TikTok is in just a league of its own in terms of how addictive that algorithm is, the AI powers that it has is going to continue to be built in, and just the obvious fact that any Chinese company as a de facto extension of the CCP. So yeah, I mean, the reality of the voting is very scary, but I do think I think if TikTok determines how people vote, we're all doomed, Joe. Basically, if people vote just because they want to have TikTok the way it is today, then the future is going to look very bleak.